Could we be getting some Doctor Who spin-offs focusing on the villains? That's what we've heard, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Hi, I'm Phil, welcome to my channel. Yes, I am wearing a Christmas t-shirt. It's a Doctor Who one. And we're talking about Doctor Who, and it is almost December, so I think that's probably acceptable. It's, a week away, but I'm going to a Christmas fair today, so Christmas has started, and along with Christmas comes presents. Presents like news about Doctor Who. We're talking about that today. I talk about all sorts of geeky pop culture on this channel, but today we're talking about Doctor Who again, because there's lots of stuff going on. And there has been a report from The Mirror, tabloid newspaper, take it with a pinch of salt, but they have gotten things right in the past. They claim they have a source that says that in the works are spin-offs about specific villains from Doctor Who lore. The Daleks, maybe, the Cybermen. We'll talk all about what could possibly be happening in a minute. But this is what The Mirror had to say. Showrunner Russell T Davies is pushing ahead with plans to expand the Whoniverse with Marvel-style spin-offs. A source said fans can expect to see Sontarans, Weeping Angels and Sea Devils in separate series showing what they're up to when the Doctor isn't there to stop them, along with Daleks and Cybermen. Now this comes off the back of basically Russell T Davies also, before he was re-announced as the showrunner, possibly before he'd even got the job, saying in interviews that he would like to see Doctor Who become this expanded Marvel-style universe, which could have its own TV channel. It could have multiple spin-offs all interconnecting. That's something that he had said in interviews prior to becoming the showrunner again, so it's clearly something that he wants to do. Now, how much he's going to be able to do that, we'll have to see. But now they've got Disney Plus on board as the international distributor. They've confirmed that, I think they're confirmed, but there's certainly speculation through, there was that article in Broadcast Magazine that there's going to be a lot more money because that's all coming from Disney Plus and that deal. So episode budget's going to be higher for the actual show, but there might also be money for spin-offs as well. And that is given that Disney Plus likes to do that with, has seen to been doing that with Star Wars and Marvel properties they own. If this is going to feature heavily internationally outside the UK on Disney Plus, it might be something they're pushing for as well. And if it's something that Russell T Davies wants to do, it's probably likely. But if this particular report is true, then we're going to be getting ones about the villains. Now, what could that look like? Well, they mentioned some there, so let's talk about them. They mention the Weeping Angels, for instance. That's the only of the new Who villains that they mention. What could a Weeping Angels series look like? Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know. I've just had a couple of ideas. I think, particularly with the Weeping Angels, what might be interesting is a short mini-series about the origins of the Weeping Angels. Give us 6 parts on the origins of the Weeping Angels. These spin-offs don't need to be continuing things necessarily. We can have limited run series. 6 episodes, 4 episodes even, whatever's needed to tell the story. Like they're doing with Star Wars, like they're doing with the MCU. Not all of their shows have second seasons. That's not a necessity. You got things like Obi-Wan, which doesn't have a second season. At the moment, Boba Fett doesn't. Don't know if it will. You've got, in the MCU side, loads of shows which don't have second seasons announced and presumably aren't coming. Hawkeye, WandaVision, because their stories are continuing elsewhere, outside of their own shows. They were limited runs, and we might get that with Doctor Who as well. So something like a 5-part, 6-part series detailing the origin of the Weeping Angels could be really interesting, I think. That could be, some people will say that demystifies them, but it's something that I wouldn't mind seeing, to be honest. Maybe picking up on some of those threads left over from Class where they were going to be in that, and that was going to, the second season of that was going to deal with a Weeping Angel civil war of some kind, I believe. That was the plan. So maybe picking up on some of those threads as well. Then you've got the Sontarans, and I think the most logical way to go with that might be to cover the Sontaran-Rutan War, which is not something we've seen on screen really. We've barely, it keeps on getting mentioned, but we've never seen the conflict itself. So maybe having a series where we see those two sides in a war, a war epic as it were, That could be really interesting. That could run for multiple seasons. It could just be one. The Sea Devils were mentioned, and obviously there's their cousins, the Silurians. Now, what I think they should do with this is have a sort of Game of Thrones epic series where, they're not the bad guys necessarily, but set in the world where they were in control of Earth before humans had evolved. Silurians and Sea Devils ruled the Earth. They were the Earth's inhabitants. Let's have a series set during that time. We've never even seen that time on TV. So it'd be really interesting, especially if we can get a good budget, to do a kind of Game of Thrones epic where we see the civilization and the political power structures, maybe political battles and vying for power within those societies. That could be really interesting for the Silurians and the Sea Devils, and to see how they interact with each other. They're two related but distinct species, so seeing how they react to each other. Maybe they're at war with each other at some point. Maybe, you see the diplomacy between the two of them. I think something like that, something like a kind of like political drama, vying for power, Game of Thrones-esque thing could be good, especially if it has a really good budget. They also mentioned, obviously, the Daleks and the Cybermen. I think with the Daleks, we've got a template for that already. Terry Nation gave us a template for a Dalek spin-off way back in the 60s. He was planning it. He shipped it to America. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But, well, maybe fortunately for Doctor Who. But, because if it had, maybe we wouldn't have got Daleks in Doctor Who anymore. But there's a template there for it, and that is Daleks versus the Space Security Service from the Daleks Master Plan. And that whole world. Now that's a world that's been explored on Big Finish a bit more, which means that we could get maybe some of the characters from those Big Finish spin-offs. Maybe we could get Mark 7 and Anya Kingdom, both Space Security Space Security Service agents who have appeared in Big Finish stuff, and Anya Kingdom obviously being the relative sister, I think. Was it sister? Yeah. Of the kingdom that was in the Daleks Master Plan. And it would be great if we could get the actors back in that played them on Big Finish as well, which is Joe Sims and Jane Slavin. If you can get them both back in as well, that would be absolutely fantastic. But it's just a really rich world to explore, that kind of Terry Nation era, which they've done, like I say, recently in the Dalek Universe series on Big Finish. But I think there's a potential there to explore it on TV as well. The Cybermen, I think I've got two ideas of where they could go with that. I think possibly they could either go with just go down the war route again and go, well, let's do the Dalek versus human war, the cyber wars. You could do those in full. Again, that's something we haven't really seen on TV. We've always had episodes that are set to, at the tail end of the war or before the war starts, but we've never really seen the war in full progress and having whole episodes set dedicated to it. So seeing that would be really good, and that's something where the Cybermen could still be the bad guys, much as in the Dalek series. The Daleks would still be the bad guys, but you've got a whole new cast of human characters that would be fighting them, and the Doctor just wouldn't turn up. You just wouldn't have the Doctor in it. The other option for the Cyberman is kind of, I guess, influenced slightly by Assad, who was the Ashad, who was the lone Cyberman in the Chris Chibnall ones. But having a Cyberman with a bit more of a personality, maybe one who rebels, and that could be your lead character, and he could be the good guy of the series, or she could be the good guy of the series, and they are going one Cyberman up against the whole cyber army and trying to take it down, or trying to fight against it. One rogue Cyberman. That could be an interesting concept as well. Then finally, I'm going to do one that wasn't mentioned in the article, but I think one that has a lot of potential, and that's having a Master spin-off. This has the most potential to be the kind of Loki of the Doctor Who universe. A bad guy character who has some kind of anti-hero qualities in some instances, particularly with Missy, and that maybe you could take them on an arc for redemption there, slightly. You could have, maybe picking up on where Missy left off and developing that a little bit more. Maybe with the Sacha Noir Master, maybe with the Missy Master, or maybe just with a brand new incarnation of the Master that comes after those two. But maybe picks back up on some of those themes that we got with Missy's redemption and takes it a bit further, and how they struggle with that and how they struggle against their impulses. That could be a really interesting character piece, I think. So Master Series, I think, would be really good, and it would be different, I think, to what they've done with Big Finish Master Series, because all the Big Finish Master Series, maybe apart from the Missy ones, because I haven't listened to those, but certainly the War Master and the Eric Roberts Master have been still bad, evil people, and I think there's definitely scope for more nuance in there, and maybe more of a redemption arc. So that would be the Loki of the Doctor Who universe, I think, if they did that as a spin-off. Well, they're just my ideas. What do you think? If we had villain spin-offs, are there any other of the races or individual villains you'd like to see get a spin-off? What would you do with these ones? Let me know all that in the comments below, and I will see you soon for another Doctor Who video. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.